North-South connection on the YouTube. Welcome to number 2 on the Royal Rumble countdown. I am the Down Under Thunder, Dave Hall. You will have heard me probably regularly on the ChroNoSo podcast, as well as through the Looking Glass. And I'm joined today by my ChroNoSo colleague, Mike Eller. Mike, how you doing?
Doing great tonight, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's, as everyone knows, it's the other end of the world. I'm the one who brings south to the north-south connection, and it's the other end of the world. So it's winter for you, it's summer for me, it's night for you, and it's the middle of the day for me, and it is bloody hot down here.
I might take that. We're about to get a hit with 8 inches of snow, so yeah, complete opposite.
Yeah. But it's all good. We're all fun. But today we are continuing the countdown of the greatest Royal Rumble performers, and we're moving into 2. But if you haven't been following the journey, go back, watch the other episodes now. But just a quick rundown. We'll jump down. At number 10 was Bret Hart. At number 9 was Brock Lesnar. At number 8 was John Cena. At 7 was the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. At 6, the icon, Hulk Hogan. At number 5, the icon in his own mind, Triple H. At number 4, we had Edge. At number 3, we had Randy Orton. And Mike, I'm excited because number 2 is, I think this is a pretty good choice for number 2 all-time performer in the Royal Rumble. Mike, why don't you let everyone know, if they haven't read it on the click in before they join the episode, who has hit number 2?
Number 2 is the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania, but in this case, Mr. Number 2 of the Royal Rumble, Shawn Michaels. And just go over his stats real quick. I mean, they definitely hold up. He had 2 wins in 95 and 96, 5 Final Fours, 42 eliminations. Total time among all of his entries is 3 hours and 45 minutes, with 12 total Rumbles. So, pretty stacked. Good time in almost all of his Royal Rumbles. Had some good years, had some lesser good years, but I'm sure we're going to kind of dive into that pretty soon here too.
Yeah, that's not a bad result. Two out of 12 for wins, 5 out of 12. So nearly 50% of the time he finishes in the final 4. That's a pretty good outcome for Shawn Michaels. I think that's a pretty good outcome for any Royal Rumble performer, and I think it's clear evidence there why he's number 2. And he had some pretty good performances. As I was prepping, I sort of felt that his Rumble career. Shawn's Rumble career really sort of fell in, I feel, 3 main categories. You've sort of got his Rockers time, the early couple of years. Then you've got his pre-back injury time period where he's the Heartbreak Kid in early heel mode. And then you've got his post-comeback run. And we'll get into a bit of each of those as we move on. But I've got to ask you, Mike, when you think of Shawn Michaels in the Royal Rumble, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What stands out to you?
What's looking at us right under here in our graphic? I don't think that's necessarily his best Rumble, 95. I think we'll get into that a little bit, but he started this trend of falling, almost hitting the ground. Now we see it in every single NXT Battle Royal at least 4 times. But that's what I most remember him for, especially as a kid, just watching this one. The Rumble is not really worth much, but just when I was young, I'd rewatch this over and over again just to see how cool it was and how he got it right.
Yeah, he really did set a precedent. He sort of, it's sort of pretty held perception of Shawn that he's a trendsetter in a lot of different ways, and he really brought in this near elimination thing. Before now, it had never really, a near elimination was normally holding onto the top rope and then you hit the apron and you roll back under, and that's how that was a near elimination. And 1995 comes along and Shawn does the 1 foot touches and he just holds the other one up, and he did a great job of it. But now guys like John Morrison, Kofi Kingston's made it. It's an annual thing. What's his way of not gonna hit the floor? I mean, it's a precedent set, but Shawn Michaels was the one who did it first. Absolutely.
Now, I mentioned I don't think 95 is necessarily his best Rumble. Did you have a take on what you thought was his best?
Look, I personally I agree with you. I don't think 95 is his best. I think his best performance is probably
Yeah.
2007 and 8. Sort of I actually think his probably best performance is probably 2008.
Okay.
Um, in terms of what happens in the ring, and there's a few things that I think when I think of his performances. I agree. I don't think his 95 one was his best. I feel that when he came back post injury, he was a better in ring performer, and I say that because I feel that the win in 95, the win in 96, it really was about making himself look good. That's how it came across to me. And we know that 95, there's not a lot of guys in there, but everything was about trying to make himself look good. Whereas I feel in sort of 05, 06, 07, 08, he's really in the mold of just wanting to be a good performer in the ring, but wanting to make those around him look good and wanting to make the story work. And that's why I feel that 08, the late 07 and 08 performances are the best that he did.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, just he still works fast, but just he slowed it down, and like you said, with the story, even in 2003, pretty early into the comeback,
Mm.
he's only in there for 2 minutes, but it sets up his feud with Chris Jericho.
Oh,
Um,
I love that 2003. Like you said, it's only 2 minutes, but I just love that story element that waiting for the arrival gets attacked from behind and thrown out. I just think it's a fantastic piece of storytelling.
yeah, I do too. Again, he's in it 2 minutes, and he may have told a story more than 95 when he was in it the whole time.
Yeah, and he does the same thing in 2000. In 2005, it's the same sort of thing with the Kurt Angle
Hmm.
story. He's in the ring for a period of time. He comes in at 19, not 19, sorry. He comes in. He is, yeah, he's in at 19. He goes and sort of takes out Edge. He's sort of battling others, and then he gets involved in this back and forth with Kurt Angle. Angle puts him in the ankle lock. He counters it and eliminates Angle. Angle's furious. He's back in, and it's that storytelling mode that highlights it. And so, yeah, you've got the 03 with Jericho. You've got 05 with Angle. You've got 07 and 8 with the Undertaker storyline playing out, and even 2010. I mean, it was all about trying to get it, the Undertaker and trying to get that moment. So he tells a story so well. Whereas I feel in 95, 96, that was what was missing. The story, he 95. The story was he came in at one with a shortened rumble and no one to compete against. And if you want to hear my full opinion of the 95 rumble, you can tune into the latest episode of Through the Looking Glass on the Place to Be network, because Scott Criscola and I covered that pretty in depth. But I actually looked back at that yesterday in prep for this, and my biggest concern about his performance in 95 is, as I said, he makes it about himself. He's doing all these near eliminations, but he's doing them while he's a heel. He's doing them in the way a good guy would try to not be eliminated and survive. And even that finish, the one leg and swinging it and trying to keep it in, it really comes across as something a good guy would do. And that's how it comes across. And you actually look at the crowd; they're cheering when Shawn Michaels gets himself back in the ring and eliminates Davey Boy Smith to finish there. He basically turned himself babyface in that match when he's supposed to be the number one heel in the company. That's my issue with 95.
Yeah, I mean, he is within a few months, but no, I agree. Davy Boy kind of looks like a real idiot
Mm.
as the baby face, but that kind of is something the Click would do and make the baby faces look stupid. I, I think 96. There's it's not as memorable, but I feel like that at least there's a little bit more of heavy hitters in that match versus how would you rate his win?
The 95 win is probably the one I would rank as the superior performance. 96, he certainly there's more, like you said, more heavy hitters in that match, and the storyline coming into it was the return from the head injury. And in fact, possibly my all-time favorite after the leg drop, the holding out, possibly my all-time favorite moment that involves Shawn Michaels in Royal Rumbles is 96 when Steve Austin absolutely takes his head off with a clothesline. It's captured in the background. It's not the main focus of
Hmm.
the camera, but you can see it just behind the main focus. Steve Austin nearly takes his head off, and Michael sells it like brilliantly for, with the whole coming back from the head injury. He finishes off by eliminating Diesel, and that was a good finish. And they were really, the top two contenders at the time, so it had an impact. But 95, he had to do it. He did a lot more. In 96, he was lying around a little bit, selling the head, and the story was trying to survive. Whereas 95, I mean, he's in the ring only for 38 minutes, but he's active the whole time. He doesn't lie around and do anything. So I think the 95 performance is better
Hmm.
than the 96 win. Yeah, that's where I would sit. What about
Yeah,
yourself?
I would go with that too. Like we said, I mean, start to finish, he's in it for 38 minutes when Gunther was in it for an hour and change from start to finish last year. So almost double the time. And he did turn himself babyface, kind of. I mean, like I said, it took a few months, but it set him up. It just changes. It really did a big career change for him in terms of his trajectory. And um, he ends up having the solid match with Diesel, even though he kind of did the same stuff at WrestleMania. Where, um, yeah, I just feel it's more important. I don't. I mean, to this day, nobody really talks about the 1996 Royal Rumble, and I don't think it's because it's overlooked. I just think it's not that special.
No, it's not. It's again, it's marred by a lot of, there's a lot of guys in there that shouldn't be in there, and it's just a time period where the star level's not quite made yet, whereas it's sort of over the next couple of years is built up again. I think, I want to get back to what we were what we were sort of referencing before, and it's the 2007 2008 performances, because I really feel this set a new standard. It brought something new to the Rumble. It brought in not only um, a different way to finish the Rumble, that '07 finish where he and Undertaker went for a good 10, 12 minutes after, as the last two guys in the ring, and it went back and forth, and you didn't know which way it went. And then the arc carrying over into 2008, where Shawn and Undertaker were 1 and 2, and I feel that sort of concept had never really been done before. They'd never really done the let's carry stories from one year to the next in the Rumble. You get references in the past to long-term issues between wrestlers, and they carry their feuds into the Rumble, but you never had something that was sort of in the Rumble itself brought in the following year as, oh my goodness, except maybe the Ted DiBiase drew 30 in '89 and one in 1990. But outside of that idea, it was a story that they were able to continue. And did they tell a story that when they started at 1 and 2, you thought for a while there that they were going to go. They could go the distance because they're fighting each other and tossing everyone else out for a few minutes.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I wanted Shawn to win '07. I was fine with Undertaker, but that's really when I started getting back into it. After a couple years off, was that '07 Rumble. They just, yeah, like you didn't see a 3.5 star match just to close out a Royal Rumble within a Rumble itself, and they were also on separate brands at the time, which was kind of cool. They were able to continue that story, and like you, even though the commentators can kind of explain it, they didn't need to, because like they just, the psychology I think was good enough where those guys are just so both so good that it just flowed really easily, and it kind of flows into 2009, 2010 for their WrestleMania matches. I have '07 and '08 both as as a higher end, not the best Rumbles. I think they're both very good, and honestly, a ton of that has to do just with those two and their efforts.
Yeah, yeah. They brought, like I said before, they brought something new and something unique to the Rumble, and yeah, it's things that we've seen pop in a few times since. So again, Shawn Michaels is a trendsetter. He does something unique, and then it's other guys sort of follow the lead and want to try and replicate it, or do it again. I think that's another reason why Shawn ranks so high as a performer, is because he does unique things, brings in elements that hadn't been tried before, and other guys see it and go, I've got to give that a try. I want to do that. Or the guys sort of putting it together go, we want to replicate what happened there.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing that kind of helps him at number two to be number two is like his low. Like he doesn't necessarily have any periods. Like he has a couple with the as a rocker in '89 and '90. They're not awful. They're not like atrocious. Like what was he doing in there? '90
Well,
he
well,
gets
well, well 90 is in there for all of about 20
yeah
seconds.
he basically runs in, gets thrown out by Warrior, and is
Mm,
gone. But it's not he doesn't have those slow plotting Roman Reigns type of moments where it can really drag down the match.
mm.
I don't I would like to hear your opinion on that. I just don't think his lows are that low.
No, look, the 1990 is the anomaly. He comes in at a moment where they are building to the peak moment of the 1990 Rumble. He comes in right before Warrior and Hogan get everyone out of the ring so they can have their face off and build to WrestleMania 6. So it really is just a factor of the main story of that Rumble. He's a non-factor there, but it's not an issue. His performance in '89, look, he hung around for a little while, didn't do a great deal, but like we said, he the time he was a rocker, he was a tag team wrestler, and I remember Jesse was putting over the fact like being smaller, it's going to struggle, but he had a couple of good little moments in there with especially with Mr. Perfect. He was sort of battling back and forth with Perfect for a while. Get call back to their AWA days and their battles there, so that was good. And I think what I think is interesting, I think his 92 performance is actually a bit of a breakout moment for him, because 92 is he's just had the heel turn. He's just gone, while he's not the Heartbreak Kid officially yet, it's the character has just come into play. It's his first real appearances as a heel and as a singles guy, and he lasts a decent amount of time. He's not the standout performer, but it gave him an opportunity to sort of show what he can do. And he had a couple of those near eliminations in '92 that, obviously overshadowed by what Ric Flair did, but it just gave him the opportunity to sort of let himself be noticed. And it's
Yeah.
actually a sneaky good performance.
Yeah, he kind of felt like a guy. I mean, it's kind of a fascinating watch because he's like his hair is a little bit darker, but it's still like he's like pseudo HBK because he doesn't necessarily have that moniker yet. And he felt like a guy though, like he felt important, not somebody who just broken up from a tag team a month ago, if that. Yeah, that's the one. I'm glad we touched on that one because I was thinking about that one a lot earlier today. Just like he within a year he's IC champion.
And I think one of the things that I think, again, we talk about why he's where he is. I think another element is in these, like, sort of once we hit 94, 95, or maybe not 95 when he's number one, but once we sort of hit those years where he's a top card performer. When he didn't start at one, he normally came in and whatever was happening, he upped the pace. Like he really started turning on, taking on everyone, battling, quick hits, quick shots, quick movement, which again is sort of become the staple of the modern Rumble of a high level performer enters the ring and they basically just start taking out everyone with some shots and hit a couple of their finisher moves and hit a couple of their, eliminate a couple of guys, which is sort of, that's what Shawn was doing in those, in those rumbles where he came in the mid to late, number slots. It was always about picking up the pace.
Yeah, no, 100% agreed. And again, innovator.
So, he sits at number 2. Is this a worthy position for him, Mike?
Absolutely. I don't. We'll get to number 1 tomorrow on tomorrow's show. I don't think there's much. I wouldn't debate that one at all. But I don't think anybody can pass Shawn Michaels at number 2. He has 2 wins. He has the Final Fours, and we just spent the greater part of 20 minutes just talking about like how much he changed the Royal Rumbles, all the stories he created out of Royal Rumbles. I don't think anybody has that volume, and again, without a lot of the bad. What would you say?
Yeah, no, I think I think what you've said really sums up well. And I think if you take out his first 2 when he's a rocker, there is nothing bad. He had, like we said before, he was in very short in 2003, but that was a storyline element. And then he even came back later in the Rumble and eliminated Kurt Angle himself. So he builds the story. And if you take those 3 performances out, you take those 3, the rocker performances and 2003, and if you remove 1992 when he's a new guy, you put this into perspective. He basically has 40 eliminations in 8 rumbles. That's an average of, he's eliminating five guys, 5 to 6 guys per rumble. For a guy as small as he was, that's the sort of stuff that you really reserve for your Undertakers, your Diesels, your Kanes, your big shows. They get the multiple eliminations, but he's in there every time. He's always involved. He's active, but more importantly, he tells the story and he facilitates the Rumble story. And at the same time, almost every Rumble following his comeback from injury, there's some element of story building for him for WrestleMania. And you come away from a Rumble going, this is where Shawn Michaels is going. This is what he was doing. And, he never disappointed. And that's the key. He never disappointed in any of those. And I think, absolute worthy number 2. As you said, we'll find out tomorrow who's won. I don't have any problem with that. And if you've been following the whole series, I'm pretty certain you all know who's hit number 1. But the one thing Shawn can hold over the number 1 competitor, he's probably got better hair.
Yeah. we can be assured of that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's number 2. That's Shawn Michaels. It's been a great journey. We encourage you, as we said before, if you haven't checked out the other ones, check them out, and the other episodes in this series, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow to see number 1. Mike, anything before we go? Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I fortunate to be part of these and take part in breaking all these down and getting to talk about Shawn Michaels' great history in the Royal Rumble. Main thing I'm on is the ChroNoSo Monthly, where we do an awesome job of breaking down all of WWE. I know you yourself are part of that too. And then the other place I pop up is here. What would you like to plug?
Look, I think yeah, the ChroNoSo Monthly is the go, and just to give a we've sort of had a bit of a delay on the next episode because we are building after the Rumble. You are finally going to get WrestleMania 5, and I think that's going to be a great episode. So make sure you join us for that. And the other show, as I mentioned earlier, the other show that I do is Through the Looking Glass, which is a bit of a what if scenario, and it's do that on a monthly basis as well. So check them both out. But this has been a great journey, Mike. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you survive the cool weather and the possible inundation of snow heading your way. And I will think about your snow while I sit out in the sun and enjoy some time at the beach.
Thanks a
So,
lot, man. I really
uh,
appreciate it. You're so nice.
no, but look, for Mike, I'm Dave, and thanks for joining us.